What do we like about what the Bears have done?
My favorite move is TJ Edwards for a steal. 3 years, $19.5 million for Edwards, who, I mean, look, I love him as a story generally. A guy that graded incredibly well in college, particularly in coverage. Went undrafted because he's not big, he's not fast, he has marginal NFL tools, he's got stumpy little arms. Like, there's not a lot to like from a, look at this guy in shorts type of perspective. But he's just always played well. So graded well in college. Then his first gig in the NFL is effectively, right, you're the special teams guy. Go out there and do your thing in special teams. Graded really well in special teams. And then it's like, okay, now you can be kind of role player on defense. You can get a few hundred snaps so preseason. Show that you belong in preseason. Always graded well in preseason. And then it's become the role player on defense. You're going to get a couple of hundred snaps. Show that you can do something. Did well there. Finally earned a starting job. Graded really well as a starter. So he's just always performed well. The classic example of like better football player than athlete. And to add him to the team for that kind of price, I think is a great bargain signing.
And now he gets to play next to Tremaine Edmonds, who is the literal opposite of everything that you just described.
Right. Other than last year is like the antithesis of that player.
I'm thinking more just athletically first. But yeah, I mean, Tremaine Edmonds was an underachiever from a production standpoint, maybe put into more challenging roles than TJ Edwards, but ran a 4.5, right? 86th percentile 40-yard dash, 99th percentile arm length at linebacker, 34.5, whereas Edwards, as you mentioned, the stumpy little arms. Incredible athlete that is Tremaine Edmonds. And we get they're playing different positions, but they're both linebackers playing next to each other. A little A/B analysis for what the unathletic guy does against the built-in-a-lab linebacker. But clearly the Bears needed to overhaul their linebacking core, and they did that.
And it'll be interesting to see how their deployment differs within the same defense. How much does Chicago recognize the differences in the capacity each guy has to take on more challenging roles or assignments or whatever? Like, are we going to see Edmonds doing all kinds of crazy stuff in that defense and TJ Edwards playing very much more a meat and potatoes kind of job,
Yeah, that'll be hashtag fun to watch, Bears defense. Now, I know what you don't like potentially is the not touching the defensive line yet, but I still like, I like the trade down from 1, if that counts.
Sure.
Adding DJ Moore.
I mean, that's their best move is adding DJ Moore.
Adding DJ Moore when you fill a huge need with the potential number 1 wide receiver. I agree with you on the TJ Edwards deal, and so I like a lot of what they've done. I like the DJ Moore, the overall draft trade. I don't know that they got the best package necessarily, but I think they got a very, very good one for number 1 overall. And I like TJ Edwards.
I like adding DeMarcus Walker as well. I think that's a good move. That's a guy that absolutely helps that defensive line, which is in bad need of being helped.
72.8 grade last year, 3 years, $21 million. When you look at some of the other, he's kind of an interior edge hybrid type of player. But when you look at some of the other defensive tackle numbers for guys that are just, I say this glowingly, mid-tier type of players, making $8 to $12 million a year, maybe Walker ends up on the steal side of that from a financial standpoint, especially he's like the clear best player on the defensive line right now for Chicago. So what do you not like about the Bears?
I mean, I don't like the Edmonds deal. They made a lot about position value and how you don't necessarily pay off-the-ball linebackers when they were trading away Roquan Smith. And they made a lot of sense when they were talking like that. We're not going to invest in this particular position. It's not where you start the rebuild, blah, blah, blah. They made a lot about that. And to then turn around and effectively give that contract to Tremaine Edmonds, albeit whilst getting the second-round pick in trade. And I guess if you wanted to really argue it, you could say the combination of Edwards and Edmonds, money-wise, is probably about what Roquan Smith was getting. But to sort of say, to make a big deal out of, no, the reason we're not giving him this money is because he plays off the ball linebacker. That's not where you gain the edge in today's NFL. That's not where you invest, blah, 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 blah. And then effectively a few months later go, yeah, only joking.
Did they trade? Did they say that though?
Yes. Okay. They made Ryan Poles made quite a big deal out of the position value element.
Because I did not know that was
Roquan Smith. To then turn around and do it. And I think he was right. Like, the stuff he was saying, I think was correct. But to then turn around and add Tremaine Edmonds, who like independent of the fact that we are judging this guy, like if they get the player from last year through the entirety of this 4-year contract,
that's worth it.
Sure. That's a huge departure over what he's been for the rest of his NFL career. It's always difficult to judge. Did we get a guy who took a few years to adjust to the NFL and finally the light went on, right? Or did the light go on because this is the year he's about to head into free agency and get a giant payday? And, or was it just a variant thing? Like coverage went from his coverage grades in his NFL career, 55, 52, 44, 37. So not only do they all stink, but they're heading in the wrong direction. And then 88.1. Now, we know coverage is a weirdly variant, all over the place kind of thing. So in addition to the paying for the payday thing, was that just random? Like this 1 year, he had a great year in coverage, and next year it'll go back to being 50. I just think there's so many reasons to be a little bit leery over Tremaine Edmunds going forward, and instead they committed big money to him when they had. I mean, the defense needs a lot.
I think if you do include the Roquan Smith move, and you do want to look at it as one big move, the fact that they got a second rounder and a fifth rounder for Roquan Smith, and then maybe even spent the same money on Tremaine Edmunds, who let's say is an equivalent type of player. An equivalent type of player in that they've both been living off of first round potential. Their actual production has maybe not matched up to that. I think if you look at it through that lens, it makes it look better. Like we actually got a couple draft picks and got a comparable player at a cheaper price. But to your point, a lot of the value in using free agency is paying a little extra for certainty. Is paying a little bit extra to know that you're getting, say with Orlando Brown, you get a pretty good consistent track record of what you're getting at tackle. Pretty consistent track record of what you're going to get for defensive linemen. You get less of that at linebacker. So you end up paying for more uncertainty than you would like. I think that's part of what you're getting at there is the fluctuation in performance with Tremaine Edmunds. It's uncertainty for 4 years, $72 million. The high-end potential, though, is absolutely there.